Today, we're diving into a story of principle, of power, and of the ultimate price one man paid for his conscience. So, these were the final words of Sir Thomas More, spoken literally moments before his execution on July 6, 1535. The king's good servant, but God's first. I mean, just let that sink in. That one sentence has echoed through history for almost 500 years. So why? Why would one of the most powerful men in all of England choose that as his final statement? Well, to figure that out, we have to understand the man himself, the king he served, and the impossible choice he was up against. What makes a person sacrifice absolutely everything for a belief? Okay, let's get into it. You see, before he was a martyr, Thomas More was a rock star of his generation. I'm talking a brilliant scholar, a top-tier lawyer, and a true visionary. Born in London in 1478, his rise was just meteoric. He studied at Oxford, becomes a full-fledged lawyer by 1501, and then, bam, he's in Parliament just 3 years later. From the very beginning, his career was on this incredible upward trajectory. Then, in 1516, he publishes the book that makes him famous all across Europe, Utopia. And get this, he literally invented the word utopia. The book is all about this fictional island society where everything is governed by pure reason, not by greed or ego. It was pretty much a massive critique of the Europe he was living in, which he saw as, deeply flawed. And what's really wild is how incredibly ahead of its time this book was. We're talking about state-controlled education, religious tolerance, and even women's rights. Nearly 500 years ago. These weren't just some random thoughts. They were seriously radical propositions, especially coming from a major public figure. Yeah, a mind like that, it's going to get noticed, and boy did it. It brought him right into the inner circle of one of the most famous, or infamous, monarchs in history, King Henry VIII. And his path to power was just a straight shot up. He becomes a key counselor, the king's confidant and intellectual sparring partner. Before you know it, he's Treasurer of the Exchequer, and then, by 1523, Speaker of the House of Commons. He was right there at the absolute heart of the English government. They were so tight that when Martin Luther started shaking things up with his reforms, who did King Henry turn to for help writing a powerful defense of Catholicism? Thomas More. And the irony here is just staggering, because that very same allegiance would eventually be the cause of his destruction. But that powerful alliance? Yeah, it was about to completely shatter. The king's personal desires were on a collision course with More's personal faith, and that crash was going to tear the entire kingdom apart. Okay, so here's where it all goes wrong. It boils down to this totally impossible divide. On one side, you've got King Henry VIII. He desperately needs a male heir, and his wife, Catherine of Aragon, can't give him one. His solution? To break with the Catholic Church, divorce Catherine, and declare himself the supreme head of the Church of England. But for Thomas More, a devout Catholic, that's unthinkable. Only the Pope holds that authority. His conscience was bound to God, not to the king. There was no middle ground here. None. And the fallout was swift and absolutely brutal. In 1532, More resigns, probably seeing the writing on the wall. He then refuses to attend Anne Boleyn's coronation. In April 1534, he refuses to swear the oath accepting the king as head of the church. And that was it. He was imprisoned in the Tower of London and just over a year later found guilty of treason and beheaded. His tragic end is one of the most famous stories from the Tudor period, for sure. But it's really just one piece of a much larger, way more complex puzzle. Because the conflict between More and Henry, as big as it was, is just one of thousands of fascinating stories of power, faith, and intrigue from this incredible period of history, and they're all just waiting to be discovered. So if this story has sparked your curiosity about the era and you want to go deeper, there are places for that. For instance, a resource like the Tudor Society has a vast library. We're talking over 5,000 articles. And it's not just articles. We're talking more than 365 hours of video content from leading experts and historians, exploring every single corner of this world. The sheer volume is incredible. You've got expert talks, magazines, quizzes, discussion videos. It really lets you just completely immerse yourself in the period. And this is not your dry history textbook, okay? You can find yourself diving into really compelling topics, like, say, Tudor-era murders. It brings the whole time to life in a way that feels really immediate and real. The whole point is for every famous story we know, like Moore's, there are countless others waiting that show you every angle of this fascinating era, from the politics and culture to the lives of just ordinary people. And that brings us right back to where we started. Thomas More's story really forces us to ask a timeless question. In a world that so often demands compromise, what are the principles you would never surrender? What for you is worth the ultimate price?